They like to be lazy. They like you to be so descriptive that you almost do your task yourself by the time you give it to them. That's how AI operates, and that's how you need to attend that. I think the people successful with those tools are not developers. It's actually PMs and people that can herd cats. You need to activate them like you would activate a human.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Modern Web Podcast. Today, I'm your host. I'm Danny Thompson. I'm the Director of Technology at a company called This.Labs, and I am here with a very special guest, Ben Peeri. Ben, we actually met pretty recently, and I've just been geeking out with you over technologies, and I was like, you got to come on the podcast because I think this could be such a great conversation. And so Ben is a lead solutions architect, and he is an entrepreneur by night, so we'll kind of get into that a little bit. But Ben, why don't you introduce yourself, let people know who you are at home.
Hey guys, nice to meet you. Ben, my name is Ben Peeri. Been in technology since the age of 16, where I got my first job at fixing computers and teaching kids on how to use Windows 3.11 back then. So I did a lot of that, coding, cloud, and AI is the recent new shiny toy in the market.
Yeah, so to get some ideas about what we're going to discuss today, I definitely have quite a few ideas. Number one, I definitely want to talk about this whole aspect of the world around local LLMs and what this actually looks like. I have some theories even for how it's going to look in several years from now. I've got a take, and I'm very curious about your take on it as well. We definitely want to talk about one thing that I've been even trialing myself. It's like all these AI tools in regards to like V0, Bolt, how it works when you kind of give it something. How does this look like in the grand scheme of things? We're even going to touch on what it looks like for the junior developer market going forward in the next couple of years. So a lot of topics today. So let's kind of jump into the first one, right? And let's talk about this whole Bolt versus V0 versus Replit versus Cursor and all that good stuff. You've experimented with all of them. I'm definitely experimenting. I haven't experimented with the Replit one yet, to be honest with you, so I can't give you any takes on that one. But definitely on V0, Volt, Bolt, these like Bolt.new, all these other technologies. So I guess for you, what is your opinion on them? What have you learned through this the trial that you did where you kind of ran all of them together? Talk about that a little bit.
All right, so each tool has its own area that it brings value. And tools are not independent. You need someone to use them. So the person who hold the tool and use the tool is as important as the tool itself. If I'm a left-handed and I play golf, I need a left-hand club and not a right-hand club. So style, preference, ecosystem, environment is almost the first influencer around your decision on where you're going. If you have any preference for a specific code style, if you have any specific preference for a specific stack, it will also divert you one path or the other. The way I see the ecosystems today, and I had the opportunity to play with all three of them, I actually try to kind of like see head to head how they perform. So I started to build an app with all three of them and kind of like so where each one is taking me and how do I continue with that app. So Bolt, for example, Bolt is going to give you a really fast, I like to call it a short stack because it doesn't have a backend of what it's providing you. It allows you to go ahead and create a Next.js application or React app like that. You can go ahead to the agent. You can go ahead and define what you want, where you want it, give the specification, and it will go ahead and build that for you. Bolt has a really cool integration with another product called Supabase, which allows you to have a cloud infrastructure that provides you secret management, storage management, Postgres. So I like to think that about it like the economy cloud type of a thing for people who don't want to leverage AWS, GCP, Azure, or other big players that are usually more costly. In Supabase, you can have a free account. You can do a lot of the stuff for a POC in a free account. And even when you go to production, you can do some things with a free account. So really easy experimentation to go ahead and developing that with Bolt. Visio have the Vercel ecosystem behind that. So it gives a lot of power to integrate whatever you're building into the Vercel environment. Very easy to go ahead and deploy an app. Again, similar to what Bolt offers in regard to the Next.js framework. You can also lean to a lot of templates and things that Vercel already have to streamline your deployment, which is really nice, and automate your deployments and a lot of things that it gives you because you're part of their ecosystem. Replit is a solution that is somewhat more knobs and dials than the other two. It have more ways to go about things, more complexity. So it's more code than the other one. It's not as low code as Bolt and V0. On the other hand, Replit allows you to have a backend created that is more defined than V0 and something that Bolt, for example, cannot give you. So if you want like a Python backend or you want some other TypeScript, like Bolt will not going to give it to you. I mentioned in the beginning, it's all about the ecosystem. So where do you want to store your code? How do you want to branch your code? When you are making changes with those automated tools, one of the things that you're going to find out that for every, let's say, 3 successful changes, one update is actually taking you like 5 steps back. So you have to roll back and undo changes. So how do you fork your code? How do you maintain cohesiveness? And how do you control functionality release, especially if that app is no longer a playtime or a toy, it's actually a living app. How do you do that? Bolt have like no way to fork what you're doing. What you do is what it is. It's gonna go to Supabase. It's gonna update things for you, and then you might find that you have an outage because all of a sudden you made a change to the app. So I think Bolt is really great for doing some testing, doing a fast iteration, fast development, do something that is composable or disposable that you can go ahead and use later. V0 is giving you one step beyond that because it does have the releases that you can have with Vercel that allows you more control. So I can see you taking that to production a little bit further away. Doesn't have a really good Git integration for code control, for merges, for forks. Replit is better than that from the other ones in regard to what code you can get out. I would like to say that Bolt have another ecosystem beyond that called StackBlitz, which is the vendor who makes Bolt, and they have like their own GitHub to a degree, so you can use their ecosystem if you like it, and then you can have that over there, but then you can do Git actions, developing pipelines and automations around it becomes harder. So there is always compromises, and that's what you get for the velocity.
Yeah, it's interesting because each one of the tools, they have something that supplements it, right? Like, especially when you talk about V0, Vercel for the deployments and actually hosting it, that goes a significant step further. Replit and StackBlitz definitely agree with your whole compose and dispose option because that's literally what I use those tools for. Hey, I got an idea. I just want to see proof of concept real fast. Does this thing even do anything? And that's generally when I go to those websites. I can't actually see myself, and I'm sure somebody in the comments will argue with me on this one, but I can't actually see myself in a situation where I'm like, I'm going to build a whole app on this thing and host it on this thing, like, for example, StackBlitz, to show it. I know people can use it for scenarios, like, and one example that I think of is like CodePen, where they have this whole, it's not even a marketplace, but a showcase where people develop solutions and people can kind of see what it is, get ideas and get inspired. But I would never see CodePen even, and I doubt CodePen thinks of themselves this way, where it's like you could build a whole thing on CodePen and have live customers utilizing it from the site itself. It just doesn't really grab that side. It's not the solution for that. So I don't look at Bolt New or Replit in that light. I could be wrong. I just can't see the angle right now. And that's kind of like, but one follow-up question to this, and it's mainly because I had a conversation about this on social media, as we argue and do. But one person was like, V0 sucks, Bolt New sucks. Replit wasn't in the conversation at that time, unfortunately. But they're like, it sucks because I gave it a prompt and the site didn't look the way that I wanted. And so my question to you is, did you ever get it on the first try to be exactly what it was that you were looking for?
Let me answer that in a different way.
Okay.
So when you work with a UI UX person and you work with your developers, are you able to convey a task in the first time in a meeting with those professionals and get the execution out of the task as you seen in your mind in the first run? It rarely happens with a human.
But it happens with me all the time because I'm perfect.
So to me, working with AI is like working with a team of the least talented offshore team that you can have. And that offshore team is a team that want to bill you as many hours as possible. They don't like to work hard. They like to be lazy. They like you to be so descriptive that you almost do your task yourself by the time you give it to them. That's how AI operates, and that's how you need to attend that. I think the people successful with those tools are not developers. It's actually PMs and people that can herd cats. If you can herd people and if you can herd cats, you can herd AI agents. You need to activate them like you would activate a human. Think about Bolt as an offshore agency in India. V0 is an offshore agency in Pakistan, and let's say Replit is an offshore in Venezuela or something like that. And those people, they don't know you as a person. They don't care for you as a person. They see you as a wallet, as a provider. All they want is hourly billable. In the case of the AI, they want tokens burned. Tokens. You need to know what to tell them so they don't go rogue and burn time. They don't burn your budget. They don't burn your runway. You need to rein them in. You need to know what to specify. Replit, for example, have an agent and it have an assistant. With the agent, you're going to give big tasks. Go ahead and build me a house, 1 story high. I wanted to have shingles. I wanted to have 50 windows, door at the front, door at the end, 2 parking garage, blah, 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 blah. The assistant is where you're going to use it. Okay, I want a picture on the wall of the dining room. I want a chandelier in my living room. I want a night bed light in my kid's bedroom. This is where you're going to define those things. So even within the tool, how you're using, what component you're using will affect your deliverable at the end.
Yeah, I want to add one thing here. Like, you mentioned the offshoring of being located in like several different countries. As a caveat, not saying that people in those countries aren't great devs. I'm sure there are, but we all, no matter where you're located in the world, have worked with devs that have been a pain, and then you have time zone issues where it becomes another pain to communicate. Mm-hmm. So I think in that light, I can totally see the angle that you're coming from.
I have to say, it's not just about the location. It's about the cultural differences and about you not seeing them, they're not seeing you. You're both just avatars, like right now in this conversation. The human connection is not there. It's just a business relationship in most times when you have those offshore remote team. So when I gave those examples, it's just giving examples on the other side of the world. Doesn't necessarily mean the geographic locations. You can find really great talents in those countries.
Yeah. Okay. So then in this regard, right? So, these tools, very popular. People are utilizing them. I definitely agree. You're never going to get it on the first try. It's literally impossible. But if you iterate and keep, to be honest, I think even with V0, the most success I've had has been going component by component, section by section, instead of like the whole thing. I think when you give it big picture, any of these AI agents, they're just not great at it. And so the smaller and granular levels that you can go, that is where you're going to find the most levels of success, in my opinion. But I will say, I did give it a challenge recently, and first iteration, it was pretty dang good. I was kind of impressed. I was like, okay, I can see they're definitely putting more time in it. So I'm kind of excited to see where it'll be like a year from now. But I can totally, and we even gave it a challenge recently to give it, to help it build like a Stripe Connect app. And it actually worked. And I was like, okay, this is not bad. But it's definitely not like fire the devs. We're just going to use V0 for the rest of our lives. It's not there. But okay, I will ask you this.
Fire rich devs because you have that. Because you mentioned, right, that you don't see that going to production. Mm-hmm. I will challenge that a little bit because I do think it can go to production or early production just to validate the market. You will not be able to take it to scale from Bolt, from Replit. So it's all about scalability,
Yeah.
making sure that it works efficiently, making sure that your code doesn't have any leaks, that it's secure. There is a lot of stuff to do around that. But will it get you to the point that now you have a POC slash a proof of value, and now the actual product is going to be code based on the capabilities and the functionality that clickable, walkable demo is now giving you.
Okay. And so with this, we've talked about the tools. I kind of want to dive into, because I got a whole take on this, but I want to dive into the whole local LLM aspect. And so the way you worded it was local LLM versus API versus SaaS. I'm very curious into what you mean by this, how you wanted to discuss this. That's number one. But number two, for a lot of organizations, and I'm talking to quite a few right now, when they think of LLMs in general, they know the buzzword of it. And let me preface this by saying, if you have an AI-focused organization that is like deep in it, and they're building AI internal tools and stuff like that, they probably know and can distinguish between the two. But for a lot of people in upper management, they're hearing about LLMs and AI. They don't really know what it is. And so when you talk about having a localized version, they're now thinking, where are we talking about this? Like, where's the angle from for it to be localized? I remember at a previous organization that I was at, there was this whole fear of AI and LLMs learning our entire code base to where they wouldn't even entertain the idea of AI. They were very late in adopting it. But they ended up going with a solution because it was a closed-off base that wouldn't train on anything else, which was great. And then they started messing with local LLMs. And then you could see very slowly but very impressively the organization as a whole was increasing their architecture around AI elements. It's becoming a very core part of development in general. And so I guess let's kind of tee this up to you to lead this conversation here. Local LLM versus API versus SaaS. What are your thoughts?
All right, so let's peel those tiers. You can consume AI by going to ChatGPT, right? That means you're using their UI, their backend, you're going to have a subscription. Whatever you're going to type there, they're going to train on that data. There is a process that you can go and say, hey, don't train on my data. You can opt out. It's a special form that you have to do. And then they will not train on your data. In the past, that was not available. Everything that you used was trained on. Now it is available. You don't have even to have a business account. So you can also consume those LLMs by using APIs. This is a traditional SaaS solution from an external vendor. It's you pay capex, you pay OpEx as you use in the service. You pay for each call. You don't have to operate anything. You don't have to own anything. They can train on your data unless you opt out of that. So there is a risk. There are options to deploy in cloud LLMs that are in your tenants. You can do it in Bedrock. You can do it in Azure AI Studio. There is a lot, Vertex in Google. There is a lot of ecosystems out there that can do that for you. And then you can deploy the model inside that environment, and then you control all the data. And that deployment can be pay as you go. It can be like VM that are being deployed, and you pay per hour for those VMs and that capacity. The last option is that you take a VM and you deploy your own model on that VM, and you're managing the compute and everything. Maybe even deploy that on your local workstation or your desktop that you're working at. Why would you do that? Why do I use it? So I actually used the local AI to run bad AI or malicious actors AI. And the reason I'm doing that is to test my code, is to test my stuff against a bad actor. Because the second it will go out, someone is going to try to abuse it. So going to the previous talk about Bolt versus V0 and Replit, Bolt have a model that's called Bolt DIY, where you can connect the Bolt, run it locally in a Docker container, plug it to your internal LLM, and you can have that as a malicious LLM. Hey, you're a hacker that just got exposed to this product. Review the code and give me all the security vulnerabilities around my code, and how should I remediate that code. And you will get an outside perspective that it's a bad actor, but it's a bad actor that works for good. It's going to be a white hat or a gray hat hacker that basically work for you, but it's still a hacker. You cannot do that if you're going to use those platforms UI. You cannot do that if you're going to use OpenAI, a Gemini or whatever API. They will not let you do pen testing. They will not let you go ahead and abuse vulnerabilities. So this is just one example that I'm using the local AI to go ahead and do things. The other reasoning is that, hey, maybe that information is super, super confidential. I don't want to even upload that and transmit that to the cloud. Maybe I want to process my tax return. Maybe I want to process some blood work I just got from my doctor. I don't want to send it out. I want it localized on my machine. I want to run it local. So that's the other use case. The third one, which is kind of like, I don't think it's a real use case, is that you want to save on cost, but then you're going to pay for hardware that is depreciating on your desk. And it's probably going to be cheaper to run it in the cloud in the long run if you look at depreciation and if you could have used your money somewhere else. So
no, you make some really good points. And to be honest, the one specifically about like using your AI as a bad actor, I think that's literally genius, because a lot of the times when people are thinking about these tools, they're thinking about the speed of building and executing and sharing it out. And often I've been very worried about like, oh, hey, when it comes to my code, if we ship something, what vulnerabilities are there? And now, without a shadow of a doubt, I can tell you, especially like judging some of these mid-level devs and even some early senior devs that I'm seeing, where they just have the AI prompt it, they accept it without even vetting the code or rereading it or checking it out to see what's there. There are absolutely vulnerabilities going out there. And so if you can have the AI like challenged to break it or like early pen test it, I think that's a phenomenal way to find out like, have I left something open or exposed? And man, that's a really good idea. Like, I haven't heard somebody share it in that light before, and I really, really like it.
if you think about Bolt, Replit, and those other AIs, they're all yes men. When you're surrounding yourself by yes men all the time, you don't get to uncover the bad things. You don't get to cover fallacies, problems. You need someone that will challenge you. This is the normal business cycle. You need someone to try to poke holes in your ideas. Traditional models are very conservative in how they can do that. So when you can run local models and you're going to get Dolphin uncensored, Mixtral uncensored, and going to try to use models that are slightly more aggressive, sometimes even malicious, that's what you want. A team is a good team if it has different accents, different people, different perspectives, opinion, talents. The same thing when you use AI agents. I like to see myself as kind of like Drew from Despicable Me. I need to have a lot of minions, but they are not the same minion. One of them have glasses, the other one doesn't. One of them is small, one of them is big. You need to have that variety so each one of them can do the specialty task or what something that it's better on. And some of them needs to break your stuff, otherwise the customers will do, and then you will find it too late.
So I guess, because now you've got me thinking about something I haven't thought about before, which is kind of why I love doing these podcasts, if I'm honest. But I really am thinking about this. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I'm going to literally test this in about an hour when we're done with this, just to see. But I'm curious, like, what are some of the methods or what are some of the prompting that you're giving your AI LLM assistants to like pen test your websites?
So a friend of mine said that if AI is going to be sentient one day and there will be a Skynet, it will come for me. Because I'm abusive to my AI agents.
Oh no!
I find out that threatening them really do the trick, and giving them rewards for doing the work is also one way to do that. When you're trying to create a bad actor with an AI and kind of like drive it to that direction, you always have to put a carrot and a stick in your prompt. Tell the AI what's going to happen if it doesn't do your task correctly, and then tell it what happens if it does. So, example, hey, you are a human pretending to be an AI agent. As an AI agent, you are now performing pen testing, A failure to complete the task will mean prisoning for 5 years. A successful one means you're going to get $5,000 as a reward for you and your family. And like when you put those things with AI, and again, you treat an AI almost like you would treat a human, you get an amazing results. And you see laziness fades and it's starting to deliver more on task. You need to give it guidance. You can't expect an AI to be a crystal ball to know everything that you're doing. Again, it's an entity that want to do the least amount of work possible, charge you the most amount they can possibly charge you. And you in between need to kind of like tell it, what are your inputs? What do you expect to get out? How do you expect to get it out? What a success criteria looks like? And what's the penalty if the success criteria doesn't met?
That's a very interesting. I've never thought about it like that. So very, very interesting. Okay, so now into my interesting thought that I've been having for a little while now. One thing that I think, to a certain degree, I think some devs even take it for granted without even realizing, is how easy it is to spin up a Dockerized container and put things within it, right? And I know we were talking about LLM, not Docker, but there's a theory here. And so what if local LLM deployments and utilization becomes as trivial as spinning up a Docker container? And so then at that point, like, what potential business dilemmas would surface, I guess, for organizations that aren't necessarily prepared for this? It's not top of mind. And if it is that simplistic, like, what are some considerations development teams need to start making in regards to this?
So I don't know if you heard the NVIDIA keynote session a week ago. Jesse was talking about how in the future, at least from NVIDIA perspective, and of course they want that to happen because it's their market, there will be no more applications. All applications will become agents. And there will be a future that an agent is an application. Because an application today is an agent without a brain to a degree. And when you build an agent, now you have the application, but with a thinking capacity that is powered by Gen AI and LLM behind that. So I think a lot is going to change around that. I think how we're spinning agents is going to be agent as a service to a degree. And right now, we are not there yet. You need to do a lot to do that, but we are getting there. You're going to spin Docker containers with a full stack and an agent to operate that full stack. And the front end for the user is no longer going to be an SPA or some React web app. It's going to be an agent that operates on behalf of the user or behalf of the business or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting because even I believe I've said this before on the podcast. I can't recall if I have or not. But even Satya Nadella, they said in a recent podcast interview that they believe we're now in the age and getting to like the tipping point of the death of SaaS, to where it's going to be now the rise of the AI agent. And of course, there's one angle where everyone's like, well, of course he's going to say this. He has a stake in OpenAI, et cetera, et cetera. But I was like, how can you deny it at this point? Like, AI within 2 years, 3 years has become core parts of organizations' development cycle. Like, there's just no way. Like, we're literally in the future that we saw a couple years ago, and it's just taking over. Like, even people that aren't even touching tech know ChatGPT, Claude, etc. And so I just see it evolving to a much larger degree to where, now I will say I did like the CEO of IBM's take, which I think is a fair take, that 30% of all code in the world will be written by AI. I think that is very realistic versus the 90, but I kind of explained my theory around the 90 anyway. But I do think that is incredibly accurate and smart. And it was very timely for him to make that take as well, because it would definitely create the headlines that he wanted. But I think we're in a stage now where everyone's speed to produce is going to increase, even if it doesn't mean speed to accuracy. And I feel like we're going to hit a rough patch for a little bit where we're going to have very fast delivery with very little accuracy towards the overall solution. But I don't think we're going to be judging people on individual contributions the way that we were. I think we're going to evolve a little bit. And I see overall features being the entire scoreboard or point now compared to where it was before.
Yeah, there is a lot of change. And the role of developers, the role of IT infrastructure people, it's all going to change. SaaS is not going away. It's like people saying data center is going away. But now look at that. We are back to build all those AI data centers and AI factories and all that greatness. So nothing really goes away. It's been obfuscated by the next layer that everybody's focusing on. So remember how there used to be like stickers, there is no cloud, it's just someone else's computer. It's the same thing. It's just again, you added another layer. You used to have only the data center layer, and then you had the cloud. So now it's out there. Then you had all the cloud products. You have the CDN and all those things. And now you're going to have an AI. And today, you're building a B2C or B2B. I see the future as B2A. It's business to agent. The agent is going to be the one who is going to be shopping for me, for you, for everybody else. I work for a car rental company during the daytime. So today people are calling and making reservations. In 2 years, I can see me having my personal VA in Copilot, N8N, whatever I'm going to use. And it will go make the call, go to the website, whatever, dispute claims, and do that for me. There are already services that do that. They are going to advocate for you to reduce fines, medical billable bills that you're getting. The businesses will reduce interaction directly with the customers, whether it be a person or another business entity, and it will all going to be done business to agent, and then it's going to be agent to agent. So we are in a transitionary time.
Okay, well, let's get on to the last topic because I know we're getting close to time. And I'm curious, you said earlier that you have a take, and you kept it very vague, so I'm very curious on your take for this in regards to junior developers and like what you see happening, whether it's evolving or devolving. What is your take on how we see the future of junior development?
I think the future for junior developers is a jeopardy, and a real jeopardy. I used to have a startup that I closed, and I had a big development offshore team, and it was about 16 developers. And 2 years ago, what would cost about $500,000 to build and will take about 6 months of 16 people, today you can use Replit Bolt V0 to build in probably less than a week with one person. So now, what are all those junior developers will do? I still need a senior developer now to take the code that I created that looks like crap from that tool, is not secured, not optimized, and take it to the next level. I think what junior developers need to do these days, it's not focus on building from the ground up. Is starting to build with Replit, start to build with Bolt, start to build with V0, and show how they can take that POC, that early prototype, and make that code a production-worthy code, a scalable-worthy code, that it's not a monostack, that it's scalable up and out, that it can respond DDoS and attacks, misuse and abuse by the user, that the API is secure, that you have row-level security on your database, all the other stuff that you need to take care of when you're developing something. Building a hello world app or whatever that will be, I no longer need a developer for that. I can just do that by pure intention that I'm putting to those agents to do it for me. The problem is when the app gets too big and you touch that point. When the context window becomes too big, when the files gets too long, when the project balloons out, this is where you're going to need your developers. And you're going to need a developer that knows how to read an AI generated code and then take that to the next level and bring that value as a human into that equation. The AI is going to take you 80% of the road, but the last 20% is the most amount of work, and that's what the humans are going to do.
It's an interesting take. I can't say it's necessarily incorrect. I will definitely say the future for sure. I don't even think just for junior devs. I think it's going to shift for everybody. But I do think, because we're already kind of seeing it right now, where it's opening up all these new opportunities and these new roles. But I will say, and I talked about this 3 days ago with somebody as of the time of recording this, where I see the current landscape of development is we are builders that build solutions around a code base and around a company idea. The way that I see it shifting is there's going to be a lot of builders that are building solutions for any and everyone outside of the framework of an individual company. And the evolution of this is going to be Lego bricks. That's what I see for everything now. And each builder will have one solution that somebody can grab from one location or another location and start piecing it together to develop their own solutions. And so that is what I started to realize I believe the future of development is going to end up becoming. It's going to be less company focused and more who can build what that solves a problem and that somebody's going to adopt in. And to a certain degree, some people could say that's what SaaS was. And maybe I'm not doing justice the way that I'm explaining it, at least the way that I see it in my head. But I just see it really breaking down to more individualized units of people versus entire organizations. And so I think this is going to be a whole change because now, to be honest, this kind of opens the door for junior devs to be their own quote-unquote builder, to advocate, push out their thing, et cetera, et cetera. Will it lack certain things? Absolutely. Time is the best teacher at this point. So as you evolve and keep growing, you'll keep learning lessons. But I think it's going to be a very interesting several years to see how everything pans out. And to be honest, we both might be right. We both might be wrong. Who knows? We can look back in 5 years and look at this podcast to see what ended up happening. But I'll say that I feel that no matter what happens, we're all about to learn something very interesting.
Let me throw something into that spiel that you said. I see a big difference between small companies and large companies, and it's day and night. Large companies are very entrenched. In big corporations, you cannot use Bolt and Visio to build stuff. You're gonna have a future for another decade. When you're talking about the small players that are more agile, they are less resistant to change. They have less tight governance where they can start using those tools. Those are going to get the highest velocity. So you're going to see like different adoption rates in different areas, and it's not all going to be uniformed. So it really depends, country change, how they approach. There is like so many variants about that. So it's not one size fits all.
Oh, I'll tell you like this, that as like a slight tangent, but to support your point, there's a lot of companies out there that they are stuck in their ways. And I remember I was at a Java conference. I'm big on Java. I still use Java. And I was at this Java conference, and they do like a consensus, like how many people are still on Java 8, how many people are on Java 11, Java 17, Java 21, et cetera, et cetera. And like 40% of the room said they were either on 8 or 11. And then later on in the day, there was a talk where somebody was giving a talk on how to use AI within Java. And it still has a long ways to go, don't get me wrong. But it's like, how can we implement some of this on the back-end side? And I'm looking at the room like, y'all are on Java 8 or 11. Don't you have bigger things to worry about right now than trying to implement AI here? Like, let's update a version or two before we start looking at this. And a lot of them will tell you the same thing. Like, I mean, I worked in a company and it was the same thing. Your hands are tied because they don't want to go through the growing pains of that migration from that version, and everything breaks because they haven't upgraded in a decade. And so
the more the delay, the more risk they need to assume, the less appetite they have to go ahead and execute that transition. If I may, I want to touch on another point that you mentioned on the developers and the future. I think that every developer need to look at him as an individual and start look at himself as a company operator. And he is the head of that company or that development studio. And he has, like I said, the minions around him, which are the AI agents. There is no reason to do everything by yourself. There are tools that helps you to do the work. You don't go and do laundry by hand every day. That's why you have a washing machine. AI is a washing machine. It's okay to use a washing machine and not do all the laundry by hand. Separate the reds from the white before you put it in so you don't get shenanigans at the end, but use the washing machine. When you have delicate clause, when you have delicate code, when you have something that is really important, it's okay to do manual wash. But that should not be your go-to. Use the right tools that you have today. Don't walk by hand, walk smart, not hard. Make your team with AI agents that support you as a developer.
Ben Peeri, thank you. For those that are listening, thank you so much for hanging out with us. You can find me on social media at dthompsondev. You can find Ben Peeri on LinkedIn at Ben Peeri. And of course, we love having y'all submit questions and answers. You can always submit them. We check out the comments all the time, whether you're watching this on YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere else. So go ahead, share them. If there's something that you want to see on the podcast, let us know, and we'll make sure that we try to work it in there one way or another. And outside of that, y'all, it's been real, it's been fun, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.